Welcome to the Blue Check Shops podcast. This is Chris Lawson, and today I have a special guest with me. His name is Behdad B. Jamshidi. He's a marketing matchmaker who's built a high trust vetting first network to help 7 and 8 figure business owners cut through the clutter and connect with real marketing talent that delivers. And one of the things that I just want to mention before we get started is something that really impressed me about B when I first met him. We met at a business mastermind slash networking event in Idaho, of all places. And B had just flown in from the Netherlands to be at this event. And immediately that impressed me because, who flies in to Idaho from the Netherlands for a mastermind? But when I got a chance to talk to him, what I realized is that the reason why he was there is one, to make connections, but two, also to get good information. And that's really a cornerstone part of what he does is he is about making connections and getting good information and connecting people with the resources that they need in order to succeed for these business owners. So with that, welcome B. I'm glad you're here.
Thanks for having me on the show. I'm super excited to be here.
Great. So let's dive right in. So most shop owners I know, they've tried marketing agencies before. They're told that they need to have a presence online. They're told that they need to do something with Google, and they've heard of something called SEO, but a lot of the shop owners I've met, they haven't pulled it all together yet. So a lot of them have tried vendors. They've walked away frustrated. Why do you think that so many agencies fail to deliver results for small business owners like us?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's multiple factors that play into it. So just for context, as a marketing broker, I've now talked to 1,018 different marketing agencies and experts, and I've helped probably over 400 to 500 different businesses with the matchmaking aspect. And so I get to see all these relationships happen, right? And typically when you are a business, you're looking for a marketing agency or resource, where do you go look? Most people go to Google, through Google, then maybe they go to Upwork or something along those lines. But those marketplaces and Google aren't really built to help business owners succeed in finding the right partners. Because most of the time, the people that are ranking on Google are the ones that are just getting customers in and out as fast as possible. They build these machines. Whereas the real good, strong marketing agencies are all hidden. They're inside of like referral networks. They're hiding in different marketing communities. They typically don't have a website that they've updated and got it to rank on Google because that's not where their focus is. Their focus is with their customers and the referral customers they're getting. And so that's one of the aspects. And typically, automotive business owners or just business owners in general will go to their different business communities and ask, hey, do you guys know a marketing partner that I could work with? And so people will give recommendations, not knowing anything about your business, not knowing the size of it, your budget, what your internal team members are, and what they're capable of doing. And so you just end up getting these generic introductions that actually aren't a fit. And as a business owner, you're like, well, I've had 5 of these. I got to choose the best one. And then you move forward, even though none of those 5 were a good fit. And so those are some of the reasons why you'll struggle finding the right marketing agencies and partners if you don't have the network to do it.
That's really interesting. And one of the things that I happen to know from our conversations, and you mentioned just now that you have vetted nearly 1,000 marketing agencies, but you've only kept the top 11%.
Yeah.
What are the biggest red flags that instantly disqualify an agency from your network?
Yeah, and these red flags are constantly increasing, but the first part is one, how long they've been an agency for. A lot of the times, anyone can start an agency, anyone can start a marketing agency and say, well, I've been in marketing for 10 years. And it's interesting when you ask that question to agencies, when they're like, how long have you been around? They're like, well, I've done marketing for 10. Well, how long do you do the agency for? 1 year. Okay. It's very different being a marketer and running an actual agency business because you have to have systems, processes, hiring people. It's a lot of work and you need to keep on top of things.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I want to always know is at least work with a partner that's been around for 5+ years because they've been in the game long enough. You know, they're not going to leave the game because a lot of people will get into the marketing space and then realize this is too hard. I'm out. And so you end up getting in trouble as a business owner working with them. The other thing that if you hear a marketing agency is growing exponentially, some of them like to toot their horns and say like, yeah, we grew exponentially last year. I'm going to grow exponentially this year. That is terrifying for me as a business owner because I don't want your business growing exponentially because systems are breaking, people are breaking. You need to hire, you need to have things dialed in to make it work, right?
Yeah.
And so as a business, an automotive business, you're not growing exponentially, right? Maybe some of them are, but you're expanding by location. Each one requires people. If someone told you an automotive is growing exponentially, either they have a lot of money behind their back and they have experience building. Otherwise, it's going to break at some point. So I think you can kind of connect the two together. So those are 2 things that I would look for. And the third one would be logos, especially in this space. If they're saying they've worked with other automotive industries and that's all they do, my question would become, did they niche because they didn't know what they were doing in marketing in general? Because a lot of marketing agencies will start niching when they realize they don't actually understand marketing as a whole. And so they niche and say, well, we have 3 customers in the automotive space. We might as well just go into this. And so you get really average marketers running a niche automotive marketing agency, and they're not able to actually do anything for you that makes you grow long term. Instead, you want to look for the guys that like have been working with other industries and have like really smart marketing background, like they understand how marketing works to be able to figure out your space. And typically they'll have some automotive space as well, but look for the more broad and general type marketing agencies.
Yeah, that's great advice. I wanted to unpack something that you mentioned there. And it's funny when you're talking about someone that says that they've had all this marketing experience, and then you find out that they've only had 1 year or so of experience in running an agency. It's very similar in our industry because you'll talk to a technician, and a technician will say, I've been fixing cars for 10 years. But then when you ask, hey, how many years do you have of experience within a professional automotive repair business? It all changes up. It's like, oh, well, you know what? I used to wrench on cars with my dad in the backyard, or I used to do this and I do that. I could fix anything that you put in front of me. But they see the salary and they go, hey, let me throw my hat in the ring on that. So it's really interesting how there's parallels in those two.
Yeah. The truth comes out when you go a little deeper. It sounds like you just be like, okay, well, what did you do exactly? And they
Exactly.
go, oh, well, let me kind of tell you this. And then they start stumbling, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So auto repair shop owners, they aren't really marketers. A lot of times they have started out as a technician and then they either graduated into owning the shop or purchased a shop. They're operators, they're team leaders. They do all these types of things that are usually hands-on. And marketing, it's kind of an afterthought. It's not something that they really got into. It's very rare that I meet somebody that is started out as a marketer and then decided that they wanted to purchase a shop and then use their marketing skills to market the shop. If you have been burned before as a shop owner and you're skeptical about hiring outside marketing help again, aside from the things you've already talked about, is there anything else that they should really do as a first step to get into this and get their feet wet and find good talent?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that you can do, if there's a knowledge gap, which most business owners do have, I would fill that knowledge gap. And don't fill it in terms of go take courses and do that kind of stuff and do everything by hand. You don't need to do that. You're running a 7 or 8 figure business. You need to focus on what's important. But you could easily hire a consultant for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to break down what the most important aspects of marketing are for you so that you know what you're getting yourself into. So, for example, I had a customer come to me in the manufacturing space very recently, right? They're doing low 7 figures in their business. And they're like, B, we heard you on a podcast. We want to talk to you. We want to hire an agency. And as I was talking to them, I was like, oh, you don't understand how any of the Google ads work. You don't understand how SEO works. And so even if I give you the right partner, you're not going to know how to work with them. And ultimately, in 3 or 4 months, you're going to cancel and not work with them. So I said, instead, hey, how about we jump on a call? I'm going to do a 1 hour consultation session. I'll charge you $500, for example, which is the amount that I charge for my consultation. And I'm going to walk you through all of these channels so I can give you a solid baseline understanding of what you're about to get into and what to watch out for when you're working with marketing partners, right? Like that $500 is going to teach you years of information
Yeah,
before you even have to go into it. And I'm not saying use me. I'm just saying use any marketing consultant that you trust. Just hire them and pick their brains. What do you need to know about marketing if you're going to be hiring a partner to run it? And what are the key red flags of when things are done wrong? Like, for example, if you're not getting access to your Google Ads account, they're only giving you some sort of report and it's a super high level
I
report.
just had that happen this morning. It's so funny. We were taking a look at these ads and I asked him, do you have access? He's like, oh, no, we don't have access. He said, but they're telling us that we generated $20,000 last month. And I said, well, how are they generating that? How are they tracking that? Do you know anything of what they're doing? And he says, no, I don't. So it's so funny because that happens all the time.
I love how you caught on to it because it's all the time this happens and people don't realize it. Or they give them like SEO reports and like, oh, this is such a great report. I'm like, this report is done by one company. All of these marketing agencies are using the same company and the same software. So no, they're not great and they're doing very average work. By the way, your last 5 blogs have all been done with AI and they're not very good.
That's right. That's
So
right.
those are the types of things that you can then watch out for so you don't get tricked by different marketing agencies or experts or other people in the future by ramping up your knowledge level. Just from even a say 0 or 1 baseline to a 4 or 5 will help you dramatically. You'll save thousands of dollars and so much time like bashing your head against the wall trying to figure out why you can't get marketing to work.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great stuff. So, can you tell us a little bit more about any type of blue collar businesses that you've worked with? You talked about the manufacturing business, maybe not necessarily an auto or diesel repair, but similar. And what did you do for them and what were the results?
Yeah, so typically the type of customers that I work with, like one was a service-based business. They actually help with lawyers, local attorneys who have personal injury customers transport their patients from home to their chiropractor appointment, for example. And this guy was a serial entrepreneur. He ran a bunch of local pharmacies and things like that as well. So we helped him across multiple fronts. But for
Hmm.
him, he came in and said, "Hey, B, like, what do we do to try to market these local attorneys?" And so I got to brainstorming with him, talk to a bunch of my different partners. And over the course of the last 4 years, he's been working with a bunch of my partners and he started a podcast for attorneys, started running social media, using that podcast, putting it onto social media and just attracting that crowd and that audience and created a newsletter also for personal injury lawyers. And so even though it was a very hard market and a very niche market to attract attention in, there were marketing channels that he was able to enable to bring in those customers. And for his local pharmacy-based businesses, it's similar to an automotive business. When someone needs a prescription, they're going to look pharmacy near me or collision repair near me or whatever it is. And whoever comes up and has good star reviews on their Google My Business, and you can actually reach them, they pick up the phone, they're likely going to call you. And so what we worked with them was just making sure they had solid landing pages when people came to their websites, make sure their Google My Business was ranking high. And there's software that you can do that. It's cheap. It's like $25 per location. So if you have multiple different locations, it's just easier to manage everything in one place and making sure that they got Google reviews and things like that. So like just establishing the foundational elements of the business allows them to grow. And so those are some of the things that I was able to help match people with is one, the idea generation of here's the channels that you could potentially look into. And two, here's the people that you could use at a either a cost-effective or really cost-effective way to just get certain channels up and running. And that's how I help them walk through that. The one other thing I'll mention is I worked mostly with outsourced partners, but a lot of the times I always recommend having at least one internal resource that does marketing. So someone that can then manage these partners for you on the inside, even if it's a part-time person, it's going to take you way further in your business if you have that person because they could then be the ones posting on your social media. They could be
Yeah.
posting on Google My Business, doing all of that stuff while you have the agencies doing more of the higher level work that they might not have time to do. And so those are some of the ways that I've been able to help.
Yeah, that's great feedback. So, one of the things that shop owners don't have is time. So, if you were speaking to someone in that situation and they were going to ask you, hey, how long does it take for this process to work? If we need marketing help yesterday, what's a realistic time frame from first contact to a working relationship?
So typically, if you're hiring me and if I already know someone within my network, typically I'll have results for you, like people to review within a week. And then you decide how long it takes for you to talk to them, make sure who you want to hire and move forward from there. I've had people that literally, they talk to me on Monday and by Wednesday, they have their people hired because they know
Wow.
what they want and they figure it out and they have people in my network.
Yep.
And so that's typically what it looks like. Depending on the types of channels you're choosing and the ramp up, that's going to be different. So for example, like if you're hiring a Google Ads person and you're already running Google Ads, finding a partner is going to be pretty quick. Onboarding them and moving them through the cycle would be a lot faster than if you're starting a campaign from scratch, right?
Hmm.
Never
Hmm.
done it before. There's research, there's a ton of work that needs to be done prior to set things up. If you're doing SEO and things like that, pretty fast to get people going, but you need to realize on your side that you need to approve things. So if they're going to be doing certain articles, they might need your knowledge too, right? So they might not need you as a founder, but maybe one of your mechanics needs to be able to jump on a call with them once every 2 weeks to give them the background for that article piece that they're writing. So it's not just something generic, it's something that will actually stand out. And so depending on the type of channel you're running and how much resources you have internally, it depends on how fast you can actually move through these channels. For example,
Gotcha.
I have a customer in the 3PL space, right? Logistics type of work. And they're very slow at responding. They respond almost every 3 or 4 weeks. So how long is that website going to take to build? Probably 6 months to a year. But for my other customers, like for example, I had one during COVID, we built a Shopify website with over 10,000 products in less than a week.
Wow.
That takes insane coordination, insane resources to get that done. And so it depends on, once again, size of business, the resources you have, the knowledge that you have in it, and how much you can actually put time aside to ramp up your partners to allow them to run themselves.
Right. And it also takes insane responsiveness to
Yes.
keep the whole process moving. I know with me and my team, we're forever chasing folks around to get things that we need to move forward. So I understand that. So most people in my space think that marketing means a website and maybe some ads. You mentioned earlier that some of the agents you see, and the red flag is, hey, you've niched down because you didn't understand marketing from a broad perspective. Can you say a little bit more about that? What does marketing really mean to you? And how can it be a profit driver, not just an expense?
That's a great question. So, what marketing is to me, it depends on the business. But for me, for example, I'm building a brand, right? So, everything that I do in marketing is thought about long term. So,
Hmm.
for example, jumping on these podcasts, I have an email newsletter, I do cold outreach, LinkedIn outreach, I have social media posts that I'm doing 5 times a week. Like everything I'm doing is to expand the awareness of my brand over time. And you start realizing, oh, these people have been following me for 3 years, and all of a sudden they end up coming and saying, B, we want to work with you. It's like,
Right.
that's it. They're ready to work with me. I don't need to explain who I am and what I do anymore. And so when you're thinking about this as an automotive type business or anything in that kind of space, is first decide, what's your plan? What do you want to build? Are you building something that you want to continue expanding nationally or even locally? Then you need to start thinking about your brand more long term. So having the foundational website is one thing, running paid ads is one thing, but then you need to start having social media, because if you move into a different location, people need to know who you are before you move there. You don't want to
Right.
have to be building from ground up. You want people to be asking you when they're moving. For example, I have this local ice cream shop that I love in Vancouver. They're on Commercial Drive, and I've gone to them many, many times. They opened a North Van location. Do you know how busy that North Van location was when it opened up? Because people were asking for them to do it. It's only 30 minutes away,
Oh,
but
yeah.
they're constant lineup. Anytime that this brand now opens up another location, people know them because we've seen them on social media, we've tried them. It's the same thing for the automotive space. Maybe not as delicious as the ice cream, but like people want people that they trust. And if they trust a brand and that brand opens up in their space, they're going to use it. And so when you're
So
asking me
true.
about marketing, I think it depends on your business. If you're trying to build something in multiple locations, you'll have to look at things like social media, email newsletters, following up with your customers, account-based marketing. But if you're just doing one location type shop, then you might be able to just focus on that spot and you say, I'm going to run Google ads for this certain postal code area. And then I'm also going to just make sure that my Google reviews are good. I'm going to have a barcode that people can scan and write a review. I'll give them 10% off their, next oil change or their next transmission change or whatever it is, so that you're boosting up your Google reviews and making sure, for example, that you have really good keywords in there so that you rank. Two different strategies, but it's depending on the goal of the business, what size you are and what you're trying to build to, that decides the strategy and how you go about marketing.
Just solid gold. I hope everybody's listening and taking notes here like I am. It's always interesting to see the customer's journey. I call them clients. My clients' shops call them customers. But just looking at how long they stalk you before they actually do business is just amazing. Just the other day, I had a conversation with the shop owner, and he had been part of my school community, my membership community for independent automotive and diesel repair shop owners and managers for 18 months
Wow.
before he reached out. And it's funny because he never even posted anything in the community. He was just basically on there, just watching and just checking out what happens. And if I hadn't made that commitment to just consistently put content out there, consistently grow the group, and do those types of things, it's like you plant a seed and nothing grows for a long, long time. And then all of a sudden it shoots up like a bamboo stalk. And that I think is really important. I think a lot of my clients, when they think about marketing, they think, you know what, I got to move the needle today.
Yeah.
And they love Google Ads because Google Ads is one of the things that can do that for them. But the conversation when it gets into things like SEO and it's like, hey, it's going to be 6 months. You may see some movement before then, but you're not going to really get momentum going for a while, 6 months to a year. But once you get that going and you get your awareness out there, it's like self-perpetuating. It just keeps building on itself. So these are important things to do. And the other thing is there's a lot of stuff. And I know I've seen your social media. You've got a lot of stuff going on. You do a phenomenal job at it. And I've also seen your branding. A lot of folks in my space, they aren't as conscious of that branding. Marketing is more of a knee jerk. It's like, hey, we need cars. Boom, let's market. It's
Yeah.
not kind of growing, but you can see it in the shops that have been around for a long time. If you have a shop that's been around for 30 years, they've built so much trust inside of the area that they're just getting a constant base and constant referrals. So they're not really thinking about marketing from a long-term perspective. So your points are just very well taken.
One
One
thing I
of
want
the,
to add, because you
yeah,
brought
go
up some
ahead.
great points there. If I was a, for example, automotive shop owner, think about marketing like this. Like, for example, I just bought a brand new car, right? And recently I actually just scratched scratched it on a post and it hurt
Oh,
me deep inside.
I,
And what did I do first? I was like, okay, well, I need to go fix this. And so I went and searched online and I searched a bunch of different websites. And I went through Google My Business and I looked for different things. If I saw a website that was super old, I didn't really go to it because I'm like, I don't know if their technology is old. How do they run their business? That's the way my brain is thinking. When I jump onto a website, I'm like, oh, this one looks clean. It's new. They got new pictures. Oh, they have cars that look similar to mine. They're not just working with old cars. That builds trust. And then I looked at their Google reviews and it was like 4.8 out of 5. And they had like over 600 reviews. Who do you think I ended up choosing? Like the one
right.
that's kept up their digital presence, looks new, has good reviews. People have talked very highly of them. I'm going to give them my $2,000 or $3,000 paid job, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to think about it like this. Every single person makes decisions emotionally. And you and I, Chris, know this more than anyone, being in the marketing world that we are, is that people make decisions based on emotion. So if they're coming to your website and your right brain is the first thing that gets engaged on something new. And your right brain doesn't speak in language, it speaks in emotion. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I go to a website and the website looks old, the right brain already goes, this doesn't feel good, passes it to the left side of the brain. The left side goes, okay, I have to put language to this feeling. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like, so we don't like it. Why don't we like it is now the
Right.
question, right?
Yep.
Versus, oh, this website looks really good. It looks like they're legit. It looks like they're someone I would want to work with. Okay, why? Now I'm asking that same question, but in
Mm-hmm.
a totally different perspective. And so that's why the foundations of marketing are so important. Like when I first started my business, I understood this. So where I put most of my money, like I got a $25,000 grant like 5 years ago. I put almost like $12,000 of that into my website. And I was a business not making that much money at that point. So that was a large investment for me. But I knew because I'm going to do all of this stuff off of my website, from Facebook to social to ads to people referring business to me, where are they going to come back to? It's foundationally my website. And then it expands from there. And so
Yep.
that's where I put most of my money.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of my clients, most of them are coming along now, but a lot of them still have older, outdated websites. And it was funny because there's that old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And it's true in a lot of areas. I just have to share this story though, because it was really interesting. I was talking to one of my vendors, and my vendor said, "Hey, Chris, you've been with us for a few years. You love the service that we're giving you." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And they said, "Can we send a possible new client over to you just to have you give them a testimonial?" And I said, "Sure." I give him a mobile phone. I was like, "I'll be happy to talk to him." So she calls me up and she's asked me a bunch of questions. And she says, "What's been your experience?" I said, "It's been fantastic. They've done an amazing job. And the communication's been excellent. And the results have been excellent. I just can't say enough for them." And then she says, "Yeah, the other person I talked to said the same thing. But their website, it just looks so, I don't know, it just looks so janky." And it was so funny because I went back and I said, "Hey, you know what? She's going to sign up." I think I sold her. I really gave you guys a glowing review, and she's about 90% there. So you might want to follow up with her. But she had reservations about your website. And I said, "I got a really good lead, a really good referral to you." And I said the same thing when I went to your website. It's like a 1990s first version website.
Yeah.
And he said something to me that was really interesting. He said, "You know what? We've tested lots of different websites, and that's the one that converts best."
Mm,
And it's funny because it's like the old long form sales page. It's just
yeah.
all one long letter, and it's like, "Hey, here's me and my dog and all this kind of stuff." And it looks like kind of a one-man shop. It doesn't look like this huge conglomeration.
Yeah.
But this is a guy who he understands it. He understands marketing, he understands advertising. And he said, "You know what? This converts." And I said, "You know what? I got to respect. I got to
Yeah.
respect." So at the end of the day, I do it. I look at the websites. I look for credibility. I look for misspellings. I look for all those things. But at the end of the day, you can always tell a true marketer because a true marketer says everything is a test.
Everything's a test. Everything's a test, right? Like and my question, like I have so many questions because like in my head, I'm like, okay, cool, that's cool. Let's find out why like, how can we make that convert better? I had a customer recently go, yeah, I know my website, it looks like super old. I'm like, great. He's like, I still do, I think it was like $5,000 to $15,000 on that website, just like parts for different types of things. And my question to him was, that's great, but do you know how much money you're losing?
Yeah, yeah, that's
And
a
he
good
didn't he
question.
didn't know. I don't know that answer either. But if people are buying at 5 or 15,000, could that be more? How many people have left because of certain things? And so
Yeah.
I think to both you and I's point, it comes down to who your target market is, right? And what does that target market like to see? So depending on that ICP of that customer, it might be that they like the long form sales copy type of work because that's what their target audience is used to. versus when, like, for example, that lady who came to ask you the questions, she might not be their exact target market, right?
Yeah, she may not
It may
be.
be someone different. And so she might
Yeah.
want to see a different type of website. It all just comes down to who your audience is. So if your audience is higher end sports cars or the more expensive type projects,
You're
I
not going to get
guarantee
away
you
with
an
the
old
janky
sales page is not
website.
going to work. But if
No, it's not.
you take care of any type of project and you're the guy that gets things done and that kind of thing, then that would might make sense because then that's what the website gives that feeling for. So
Yeah,
it really
absolutely.
depends.
And again, this is why you need to test. So we talked a little bit earlier. I was telling you about this client that didn't know what his stats were and they wouldn't give him access to his stats, his own Google Ads account. I think about how are you making your decisions? If you don't have the data that you need in order to make these decisions, how do you know if it's working or not? And that's a big part of it is, yeah, I can say that this website's really converting well, but have you split tested it? Where's your data? Let the
Yeah.
numbers tell you the story. And that's why it's really important to have that data. And the other thing that's really important, and maybe you could say a little bit about this because I'm actually having this problem right now, is tracking. And vendors can be creative with the way
Yeah.
that they display your reporting. And it just mesmerizes people. I have a client that called me up because my clients call me up all the time and ask me questions, even though I don't really do this, but they know it's like digital is digital, right? So
Yeah.
Chris must know about all that stuff because he knows about Facebook.
Yeah.
So I had this client called me up and he said, "Hey, Chris, this guy FedExed me this thing and it's a sheet and it says, hey, look, your competitors XYZ shop, ABC shop, WVX shop, three competitors are all doing this. These are the numbers they're doing. This is the number you're doing. Do you want us to help you?" And it was funny because my client who called me, he's my friend. I know him pretty well and I know him very well. And then another one of the shops that was on this list was another guy that we knew.
Okay.
So we just called him up and we are asking him. And the numbers didn't correlate to anything. So I pulled up SEM Rush and I pulled up Uber Suggest and a bunch of things. And I was like, I can't find where this guy pulled these numbers from. I don't know what it means, but it showed his numbers were way down here and they're really low.
Yeah.
So I said, go back to him and ask him where they got the numbers from. And then the guy goes, oh, well, we got it from our proprietary software and let's hop on a call and I'll show you this and I'll show you this. And I said, he's full of it, man. He's
Yeah.
full of it. And it was funny because my friend, he wrote the guy a negative review and said, this guy's trying to scam you. He's sending you this FedEx package with all this bogus information in it. And the guy calls him up and goes, hey, hey, take that review down. Take the review down. I'll explain what I did, you know, and all this stuff. But they prey on business owners who don't understand the numbers.
Yeah.
So it's really important to your point, it would be worth it to hop on a call with you for 500 bucks and just say, look, these are the things that you need to look out for because this is the way that they're going to trick you. And
Yeah.
I was in financial services for 25 years. I saw lots of ways that people try to trick you in financial services and sell you these expensive insurance products and all these kind of things. I mean, they're masters at showing you certain facts and not showing you other facts and
Yep.
doing all this kind of thing. And it's the same thing. You just need to get yourself educated and you have to have the numbers because the numbers are going to tell you whether it's working or not.
Yeah, 100%. And to add to that, like you can even bring out outside people to look at your numbers for you. So for example, I had a customer probably about 6 months ago now, or even more actually. I think they've been working with the agency for 8 months. But they came in and said, hey, B, we run this course and we're doing almost $1 million a year, but I don't think these numbers are accurate. Can you just look at these forms and see what's going on? And they were mixing organic leads with paid leads and saying, oh, they're all part of the same thing. We've gotten you this
Oh,
many things. And you're like,
that
that's not
happens.
cool. That's
Yeah.
not cool at all. And so
Oh, yeah.
I'm not like a deep into data guy. Like I'm an engineer, but like I don't spend a lot of my time in these documents of work, but I can see that right away. And then I was like, okay, look, I'm going to give you 3 of my agencies, get them to run the numbers for you and tell you how they're going to do attribution and then see what you like the most. And like they all came up with the same thing. Like these numbers do not make any sense at all. They're over reporting. And the thing with the automotive industry and any type of like industry like that is you should be able to tell if people are closing. Like they should be talking to you and going, hey, they should be doing call tracking, number one. And then based on the call tracking, they should know if you close business to then basically go, yeah, this is how much business we closed. Feed that back into Google, feed that back into Facebook to be like, these are the most ideal customers. So you can get more of those types of customers.
Yeah.
If they're not doing that, I can right off tell you don't have an A player agency. You have like a C or B player at max.
Hmm.
If you don't have someone checking in and be like, hey, how much business did you close? Did these calls actually close? A
Yep.
lot of people don't do that.
That's awesome. And that actually brings up two questions for you. Well, a question and a statement. One is if I have somebody and they want to have an audit, is that something that you do? You send them an invoice and you could audit
Their
their
accounts.
marketing?
Yeah, so typically, like for me, if someone comes to me, I can audit from a high level and go like, what are they giving you? How much is it costing you? I can tell right off the bat if you have a good or bad agency, typically from that. If it looks like they're a good agency, I typically go, hey, talk to three of my partners, let them all run audits for you, and then take the correlation of all three and go, do we have a good or bad agency? And
Yeah,
so that's typically how I do it because I don't do the audits myself. It would take a lot of my time and I don't have that much time these days.
sure.
But really, I do get the partners in place that can do those audits and they don't charge for those audits. They do it as a part of their sales process, right? And
Very
then why
interesting.
I say talk to three of them is because you'll get audits from each one. So you know that they're not one-sided. So when you look across
Yep.
all three and all three are saying the exact same thing, there's probably something going on with the agency you
Yeah.
currently.
That's so true. Now that just brought something else up with me. It's always funny when we talk to a website person and they find all these problems with your website. We just did a brand new website. I think we spent like 18 grand on a brand new website and we worked really hard on it. I was directly working with the development team and we had it all scripted out, story brand style. We had everything above the fold that needed to be above the fold. We had the copy was just dialed in. It was perfect. And then I had somebody reach out to me and he gives me this big list of all the things that are wrong with our website. It hadn't been 2 weeks after we got this whole thing done.
Oh
And
no.
it's so funny because you look at all the things and a lot of them are just minor. It's just silly stuff and it could go one way or go the other way.
Yeah.
And again, it reminds me of financial planning. One of the things they train you on how to do is to look at a will or a trust and to poke holes in the will or trust. And it
Yeah.
doesn't make any difference who drafted it or how soon it was drafted. You can always find problems with it. But that's just one thing. So I love the idea of having three different objective sets of eyeballs on what's being done. That way you can compare all of them and you can get a really nice average of what's going on. And then
100%.
the other thing I wanted to say is the kings of attribution error are Yelp. I got to tell you, Yelp will take your organic traffic and then they'll feed it back to you and they'll charge you for it. And I've proved this. They deny it up and down, they deny it. But it's funny because I went around and around with Yelp. I've talked to dozens and dozens of Yelp reps all over the United States for clients. And it's just funny because their process is just so shady. The way
Mhm.
that they do attributions and leads, it's like if somebody looks at your page, it's a lead. And then they go, look at all the leads that you've gotten. And they're not leads at all. It's just views, maybe, you
Yeah,
know.
it's not good.
So, yeah, we could go on and on about that. But it's just really important to have the numbers and to have an objective set of eyes. I
Yeah,
would really
and
leave it that.
until you like your first point just about your website. Like I don't know a lot about Yelp. I don't play in that space often, and typically I feel like I mean you can correct me if I'm wrong here because you're an expert in Yelp. I'd feel the type of people that are looking at Yelp most often for things are probably not the ones that are more the technically astute or know like where the new places are to look for things. Right. So you'll
Fair
usually get
enough.
a different type of customer there if you're advertising there. But on the website
Definitely.
front of things, for you building a new website, this is kind of how I think about mine. I built mine 5 years ago and I'm just constantly adding little iterations and improvements to it, whatever makes sense to me. And then you can also run heat tracking software to see where people are
Yep.
spending time. Why are they not spending enough time, et
Yep.
cetera, and make little iterations on the website to improve it over time. Obviously, if you don't have a good foundation, you can't do that. But it sounds like you put a lot of solid foundation into your current website. So now it's just about iteration. It's get the data from heat maps, figure out what it looks like, and then going, oh, do we need to add a video here? Oh, when we add a video, it brings up page time by 40%. Okay, cool. Now we know that with SEO, one of the metrics is how long someone stays on your page and how much information they're gathering, what interactions they're taking. And so whatever that guy recommended, some of them are going to be so small that it's not going to matter because you
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
have
Oh,
thousands and
absolutely.
thousands of people as traffic every month.
Right.
But
No,
you'll be able to if there's big stuff in there, you can test the big stuff, right?
sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. And I think the other thing that's really important, and this is at no time in history has it been easier to do this than today, is just find out where your customers are coming from
Yeah.
and do more of that.
Yeah.
And I went back as part of my year in planning, I went back and I looked at all of the strategy sessions, all the sales calls I'd had with all the shops for the entire year, for all of 2024. And what I found out was that there were just a very few lead sources that generated
Yep.
80% of it were
Yep.
generated by that. but I was spending 80% of my time. I mean, it was a classic Pareto principle moment. My 80/20 was flipped in reverse. I'm spending 80% of the time on the 20% of activities that actually generate business. And that's also a really eye-opening exercise when you go in and you look at, hey, where are we getting this? And I could tell you the best types of leads for me are referrals. And
Yeah.
and that's the way it is for most businesses. And if you spend your time and your effort on your referrals, and I'm a big fan of the Dream 100, look at your top clients and then where they came from, and then you identify individuals who can introduce you to more of those individuals, and then you put your resources into that, it's very, very high leverage. And
Yes.
somebody like you know so many people and you're so connected. If you spent your time on those, Dan Sullivan calls them nodes, the people
Yeah.
who are connected to a lot of people, the super connectors, they also call them. If you
Yeah.
spend your time there, it can just make an exponential difference in your life.
100%. When I look at marketing for some of the best businesses, you see most of them haven't done any digital marketing. They got the seven figures through just doing good work and getting referrals. That's the
Yeah.
foundation. So when I looked
Yeah.
at because I've talked to hundreds, probably thousands of businesses at this point, not just on the marketing side, but from my TELUS job and doing this. And I looked at it and I was like, wow, like, how are these guys doing it? Right. And it really comes down to just building really good referral networks. But a lot of them haven't even harnessed the power of it. There's ways to kind of ask for referrals, but there's amplified ways. For example, if you know someone in your network that you want to connect with and someone knows them in that network, instead of being like, hey, do you know anyone you want to connect me with? You say, hey, I know you're connected with this person. Do you mind making an intro for me? Right.
Yeah.
And like getting super targeted and super specific. And
It's a great idea.
that's so easy to do, right? Like, because you're asking
Yep.
someone, hey, you already know this person. Can you just make an intro? You don't need to think about it. Here's the email you can even send to them and then walk away. Takes them 3 seconds to do and they're doing you a favor. Why not? And
Yep.
then on top of that, you could build out proper CRM. You can label people a different way too, right? What do they come in for? What are they typically going to need after that? How do I follow up in a sequence of emails that are already automated so that when they need that thing in 4 or 5 months, because you know they need it, you're there and you ask for it, right? There's so many models you can build there, and these can be automated. And once that's automated, that referral engine is automated and you've already put energy into it, that's when you start looking at the other stuff. That's when you start looking at digital marketing and all those other things. And so, where my business focus is, referrals is where I get a lot of business. Podcasts, going on podcasts, I get a lot of different business. And so,
Yep.
those are two big leverage channels for me. But and conferences as well. What do? I get people into my social ecosystem, whether it's on
Hmm.
LinkedIn or my email newsletter or on my Facebook, because I'm posting on all those channels. So I've made a connection with you, and now I'm staying in front of you with some sort of content.
Yep.
That's why I'm getting people reaching out to me 3 years later, being like, "Hey, B, been watching your stuff. Happy we met before. I got a customer for you." Like
Hmm.
that's how it works. And most people don't
Yep.
think this way. They think
Yep.
I need to get an ROI today. My thing
Yep.
is no. I know that I'm spending a certain amount of money on marketing every single month. And I'm not even looking at my ROI on the marketing. I'm looking
Yep.
at the revenue of my business. I'm looking at, is my business revenue moving up? Am I getting more referrals? Am I getting these things? Then the marketing budget that I put into is in the right channels. And
Right.
just a short thing here, I run like 9 different marketing channels. And I'll tell you, I run them probably 2 or 3 out of 10. I know what it takes to run it 10 out of 10, but I've
Hmm.
seen people running marketing channels at 10 out of 10. Their business will get to a certain scale, but then they can't move off other things because it's going to take them another 2 or 3 years to ramp up another channel the same way. And so they
Yep.
stick on the same channel. And then what ends up happening, that channel's algorithm changes, something ends up happening, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, my business is in trouble. Like I don't have anything.
Yep.
This is happening to e-commerce businesses. It's happening to service-based businesses. So my methodology of how I run my marketing is I run multiple different channels. I run them at a 2 or 3 level out of 10. I'm constantly iterating little by little on each channel to improve them, right? So for example, let's say Instagram, I started with just doing videos with the front of my phone. And then I started using the back of the phone. And then I bought a gimbal that follows me around so that it does well. And then now I have this giant light next to me to make sure the light's good. I'm just iterating and improving on it over time. And you'll notice that when you combine the combination effects of multiple marketing channels,
Yeah.
your brand grows. And when your
Yeah.
brand grows, it's easier to close business and people are just happy to work with you.
Yeah. Well said. Gosh, maybe we should just end on that note. I mean, that's brilliant. One thing I do want to say about what you said was the 2 to 3 years to ramp up a channel. That's another thing I think is really, really wise. I was in this high-end mastermind and the host of the mastermind was talking about it. And he said, you know what? Everybody's got this shiny object syndrome. And you're getting all these phone calls as a business owner, and they're all telling you that this next thing is what you need to do because it's going to just be gangbusters for you. But he says, just realize it's going to take you at least a year to figure out any platform. If you decide you want to be on Instagram, it's going to take you a year to start getting business from it. If you decide you're going to get into LinkedIn now, it's going to take you a year. If you really want to get serious about Facebook Meta, it's going to take you a year. If you
Yeah.
want to get into an email list or you want to get into blogging or SEO or anything like that, just know it's going to take you a year. So you don't need to be jumping over and getting all these shiny objects. Just put your efforts into the things that are working for you. And I love it's like diversification. It's the same thing with investments. You want to diversify your lead sources. I got this phone call because they knew Chris worked on Facebook. And the guy did calendars for firemen, like the beefcake calendars for
Yeah.
firemen,
Yeah.
and he sold them on Facebook. And all of a sudden, Facebook got angry with him. I don't know why. He violated one of their terms of service and they shut his Facebook account down. I got this call. It was in the middle of the night, and my friend said, "You've got to talk to my friend. His business is shut down. He had a 5 figure a month business and it's shut down. He's not getting any revenue. He's not getting anything." And I said, "Okay, I'll talk to the guy." So I'm all bleary eyed and I was talking to the guy and he's just hysterical. And I said, "All right, well, here's what you do. You're going to have a hard time getting a hold of anybody at Facebook. It's going to take a while. Just take your email list, go on to a different platform and send an email to your list and say, hey, look, I'm over here now. Tell everybody that I'm over here. Let's get things up and running again." And then I heard silence on the other end of the phone.
You didn't have one.
He didn't have one. And I said, sorry, son, you're done. I mean, I really would like to do something for you, but it's that old thing. You don't build real
No.
estate on rented land. As we're wrapping up here, can you just give maybe the top 2 or 3 things that every shop should have and really focus on in terms of marketing so that if they're starting from ground zero, at least they're making progress in the right direction?
Yeah, so number one would be just have a solid website. Whatever your ICP is, whoever you're targeting, just have a solid website. Two, Google My Business is your best friend if you're a local based business. Like what I mean, get reviews in there, get all your products in there, ramp up your profiles. There's some simple software that can really, really help with that kind of stuff. And most businesses don't do it, they don't focus on it. And then three would be paid ads is really important. So just make sure you have the right paid ads partner in place. SEO for local is going to also be important still, even with all the stuff that's going in AI. And that's kind of like your marketing foundations, like at the bottom. And you just talk to it, like build your email list. You're getting customers coming in, check in with them, find out when their birthdays are, say happy birthday, stay top of mind because they're going to come back to you. And so that's kind of like the core. If you're learning to grow even more, then you start looking at the other channels like social media, influencer marketing. There's some real interesting plays you can do there that most people will never think about because they just don't have the knowledge to even try it. And then one thing that you just talked about, Chris, patience. Like each one of these channels are going to take time, but if you want to take over the market, most people won't do things for long term. And if you're one of the people that do it, that's why you end up being the big brand. And then everyone goes, I want to be them, but I'm not going to invest for 5 years like they did.
Exactly. I hope everybody's taking lots of notes. This is some serious marketing wisdom here. Thank you so much for being here, B. If any of my listeners want to get in touch with you, what's the best way that they can do that?
Yeah, the best way is going to www.cjammarketing.com and just filling out a contact form there and reaching out to me. I'm also on LinkedIn, which I know most of you might not use, but if you want to look up Behdad Jamshidi, I'm there as well. You can message me there too. And on my website, there are resources at the bottom. If you don't even want to talk to me, there's resources at the bottom, which helps you kind of figure out what questions to ask different marketing agencies, things to be aware of. And there's just resources in the footer there for you to download and use as well.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for being here today, B. It
Thanks for having me.
was awesome.